Welcome everyone to part 3 of our discussion of the cards leaked for Star Wars Unlimited 7 set, A Lawless Time. We've already done 2 parts of this. Those will ping right now in YouTube for you all if you have not seen parts 1 and 2 and want to get my thoughts on the cards that have so far been released. But man, oh man, do we have a lot more cards to check out. We got new leaders, new legendaries, new really cool stuff to talk about. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of cards to discuss, read, and think about for not only the Premier format, but also the Eternal format. What will be good coming out of this set? What do we think is going to be the best cards to play? So sit back, relax, and enjoy me talking, because for some reason, I quite enjoy just waiting for a whole bunch of stuff to get revealed and then record these videos. Alright, enough about that. Let's move on to our first new leader revealed to us. That is Han Solo, good old young Han. You can't have a set about smuggling without, of course, Han Solo himself. But anyways, Han states on his front side, action defeat a friendly token, any token, and then you just can deal 1 damage to a unit. He flips for 5. He is 4/5 on his backside with on attack. It's got Saboteur, and on attack you may defeat any number of friendly tokens, deal damage equal to the number of tokens defeated this way. I don't know. It's interesting because, you know, we do have spy generation from Secrets of Power, and that does feel like a great way to generate tokens coming out of the game. But, I mean, we also have credit tokens, but are those really going to be good? I don't know. I mean, I don't feel this leader's all that great. And being honest, I've reviewed all the leaders already. I do take a look at all these cards before these videos and have some initial thoughts. And honestly, other than Agent Callus, I'm not too impressed with a lot of leaders. And this leader doesn't really impress me all that much as well. I mean, honestly, every set we have a bunch of leaders and maybe only 1 to 2 actually do something, come out of the set, actually are even worth playing. Now, some of them are fun. Some of them, you know, are fun to play with. They are great. They're jank, but they're fun to play with. Han Solo doesn't feel like that leader. I mean, he's got Saboteur, but he's only a 4/5 leader. A lot of stuff could kill him pretty easily in the late game. So, I mean, he's not great. I mean, he's a skill of just killing a token. And especially in a game where credit tokens are going to feel so good to utilize for burning their effects so that you can reduce the cost of the play cost of your things so you can play them. It's not exactly great to murk off your own credit tokens to deal damage to something. And sure, yeah, you have spy tokens, so you could technically, you know, swing your spies and then kill them off. But most of the time, most decks are only generating spies thanks to Queen Amidala. And most of the time, your opponent is wrecking those spies anyways, because the fact of the matter is they don't want you to have those up and running, because that means that the queen can just push damage into the spies and kill them for free, and then swing like 5 damage into something for free, which, by the way, this leader could actually die to a Queen Amidala, just hilariously enough. But, I don't know. I mean, it's on attack to defeat any number. I guess if you have a good amount of credit creation you can be doing in this deck, then yeah, sure, you can do that, and then you can kill off your credit tokens to destroy damage to stuff, but, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a good leader. I'm not impressed with this leader, for all honesty. I was impressed with some of the leaders in the part 2, but this leader so far for part 3, I'm not impressed by much. We may see some people try him out, because again, Premier has got pretty restrictive on the leaders, even though I think a lot of JTL leaders will become meta viable. And then some of the leaders from 5 and 6, I think, are going to be very viable as well. I don't know what leaders I think would become out of 5 and 6. I don't know either. I don't know who. Well, I guess. Well, man, most of the leaders I'm thinking that are going to be viable, I think, are coming out of JTL, hilariously enough, because of Piet, Luke, Kaz. All those leaders I feel are going to be very, very viable. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be coming out of 5 and 6 as good leaders. Guess we'll have to wait for that. Anyways, moving on, we got a Millennium Falcon. Of course, folks, you can't have a set with Mr. Solo without a Millennium Falcon. Anyways, on attack, you may give another space unit -2/-0 for this phase. If you give it, you may give a ground unit +2/+0 for this phase. So it's really nice. So meaning that you can swing and give a space unit -2, meaning that they can't hurt your base or can't hit you back in the face, and then you can give one of your own ground guys +2, which is pretty nice. Again, I wish this was red because that's typically where I want to go play with the Han from JTL. Would be really fun with this Millennium Falcon because it's another Falcon. But another good thing about this is yellow, and the Han pilot from JTL, the legendary, is a yellow card as well, and he just needs to attach to a Falcon, and he can swing, and that Falcon gets first strike. While I don't like that's a 2/7, I think it's now the weakest Falcon that we have at cheap cost, because the Falcon from JTL is a 3 cost, I believe, 3/4. I think he's a 3/4. I know the one, at least the one from Sparks, is a 3/4. I can't remember what the one from JTL is. I think he's a 3/4 as well, but that one gets buffed for every pilot under it. This one's okay, but the problem is it's only going to go up to a damaging of 4 shot because of the Han only gets an extra +2 on pilot. But still, another Falcon's not bad. And again, it's in yellow, which is great because that does allow us to synergize with the Han pilot from JTL. That's the unit card, not the leader card. Though you could play this as on your leader, though. I wouldn't know what to do with green. Typically, you want to play the red package more than the green package. But nonetheless, it's nice to have another Falcon. It's a nice Falcon that can harm space units and buff your ground units. So I could see some good play with it. And of course, it's not a legendary. So we have a Patient Hunter. When the regroup phase starts, you may give an experience token to a non-leader unit. If you do, you can't raid this unit during your regrouping phase. Something pretty nice. If you could throw a red package in there as well. We had the I forget the card's name, but the card states that if the unit didn't get played that phase and did an attack, you can restand it. So if you're in a red package, and that's mono red and 2-drop, so technically you can restand the Patient Hunter to burn its effect to give an experience over to a non-leader unit, use the card to then restand it, and allow you to swing for 3 damage, which is pretty nice. And as well, you can give the guy his own experience token as well. It's not you may give another non-leader unit a experience token. It's you may give an experience token to a non-leader unit, including himself. So you could give him to himself, and then you could restand with that red card, or you could just pump him up and force your opponent to have to come after it. Or you could easily give him Sentinel. There are cards that can give Sentinel the stuff as well. But still, it's a pretty neat card. It's got Bounty Hunter as well, as we've seen some cards that want to buff up Bounty Hunters, like the Forlom from this set. But still, pretty neat. Moving on to Combat Exercise. Exhaust a friendly unit if you do give 2 experience tokens to it. So just a nice way to exhaust something, like if you have a Sentinel, exhaust a Sentinel to give it 2 experience tokens. If you have a unit that basically you're not going to swing with, you can exhaust to give experience tokens. And a nice 1-drop green that could just exhaust something to give experience token. It's still not bad. I mean, pumping things up is a pretty nice altogether. Just being able to pump up your guys so they hit harder is really nice. Again, I think this would see a lot more play in like going after Sentinels with this specifically, and then pumping up those Sentinels, because typically most of the time your Sentinels are just going to be there to be bodies to your opponent to bash into. So resting your Sentinel that can still protect your base unless your opponent has Saboteur is real nice, because then you can just pump it up some more, making your opponent have to go after a bigger Sentinel with bigger health points. So that's pretty cool. As well as give 2 experience tokens, it's important to note that experience tokens, if you see people typically play with markers, so like 3D printed markers or official markers from Fatansy Flight or anything like that for experience tokens. Experience tokens are upgrades, by the way. So the Synthicaz from this set that is blue-white, that when upgraded, she gains Sentinel, can just use this Combat Exercise, and then she gets upgraded and becomes a Sentinel. So do be mindful that if you're looking for units that need to get upgraded to do stuff, this gives upgrades as well. Experience tokens are upgrades onto units. So be mindful on that. We have the Master Codebreaker. Yes, the man that Finn and Poe were looking for in that casino scene that went absolutely nowhere. The Codebreaker. Oh, man. Woo, what a great card. What a great character to make into a card. A worthless guy that only showed up for what, like a few minutes into the movie and he was gone? Yeah. Anyways, a 2/1/4 that states the first gambit you play each round costs 1 less. Pretty nice. We've seen a lot of cards that I think tricks for the Jabba from Seb 1 would grab tricks and reduce the cost of tricks. So we've seen Frita from Secrets of Power that can grab law cards. He can't reduce the cost. I don't think he reduces the cost of law cards, but he can search through law cards. And the man can look up Gambit cards as well, reveal it, and draw. So if you're looking for a specific Gambit card, again, events will have it usually as like supply. So usually will be like here would be a Gambit. So if you're looking for specific cards or need to dig something out, it's a pretty neat thing here. So maybe there's something you could do with like this. Usually, most of the cards we sometimes get revealed usually are something to pump up the leader that just got revealed. Anyways, we have Lady Promexia. We have only had her now twice in the game. Shadows of Galaxy gave us one of her that stated whenever you played an Underworld card, you could deal 1 damage to your opponent's base. I believe you had to tap her. Anyways, action tapper, create a credit token. Just kind of something that if you're going to play Han might be a good idea to play. Heck, even just in mono yellows could be really good to play just because, again, this credit tokens I think are going to be very much meta because a lot of decks are going to attempt to use credit tokens to reduce their cost of their units and utilize them. So just be on the lookout that credit tokens, I think, 100% are going to be very much running around throughout this upcoming Set 7 meta. So just be on the lookout. But again, it's a good card also if you're going to play Han because then you can just create credit tokens so that Han can then just burn them so that so you can ping 1 damage, even though in my opinion, that's quite dumb. But still, something you could do. I do expect to see this in decks that really want to mass produce credit tokens. Yeah, if want to mass produce credit tokens, that is actually really good. So be in the lookout. Like I said, I think even though a lot of people dislike what Fantasy Flight does, where every set feels like it's a new mechanic and they never really build off old mechanics from the older sets, still, I still think credit tokens, even right now, being a new mechanic, I think are going to be very, very viable for a lot of different strategies, especially Piet, because we'll see later on there are cards that can start giving your opponent credit tokens. We saw it with the green card here. Let me go find it. We looked at it right here, like Double Cross, where you swap cards between your opponent, and whoever got the cheaper card then creates credit tokens based on the difference between the card given and the card taken. So there are cards like that, and I do think like Piet might be playing something like the Intimidator is really good for Piet because then you can be able to get credit tokens and then be able to spam another body onto the board, which is still pretty nice, but still something to think about just because I think credit tokens might become very viable in this meta because they're able to burn themselves to reduce the play cost of your units, which is always going to be nice. So you could burn a play cost and reduce a guy to maybe 2 to 3. So you could potentially use it much like what Han 2 does in the game, where Han 2 or Han Spark, Han Shadow and Han Spark do, where they play in a very faster mid-range, where they really don't care about a lot of times that they're 1 behind because they can immediately be able to use their effects to then allow them to play a card 1 step faster. So in those 2 Hans, you can play a 3-drop card on your 2-drop turn. So the first turn of the game, you can drop a 3-drop onto the board and already start getting the game going at that point, allowing you to hit your mid-range much faster than your opponent. So I do think that's what credit tokens are going to do if your decks are around them, is that their mid-range game is going to be a lot more dangerous than anything else. But again, those are mid-range decks. Most of the time, they don't grind out into the late game very well because they're meant to hit the mid-game and win in the mid-game, and then they slowly start to grind out down in the late game. But again, for a lot of decks who can't buff themselves up fast in the mid to late mid-game, they will lose out to that. But decks that can grind out into the late game will probably always succeed. But still, it's a pretty good card. Also, it's really good for aggro strategies because aggro strategies aren't going anywhere, folks. Aggro strategies, I think, are going to get a whole lot different now. Anyways, we have Improvise. Look at the top card of your deck. It is a Gambit as well. Here you go. You can search out this. Look at the top card of your deck. You may play it. It costs 1 less. If you don't, you discard it. So basically, you can look at the top card of your deck and decide whether or not you want to play it or not. Add 1, cost 1 less. It's an okay card. That's all we're going to say about it. We have Let's Razy. Another bounty hunter, this time in blue-green, with Underworld Bounty Hunter 2/1. When played, give a shield token or experience token to this unit. She then deals damage equal to her power to an enemy ground unit. Okay, a pretty nice card. So you could just give her experience token to turn her into a 3/2 that can deal 3 damage. Or you could play her out, give her a shield token to protect her because she's only a 2/1, and then deal 2 damage to her ground unit. Still pretty nice. Just a nice way to ping some damage onto your opponent's bodies is never going to hurt in any way. The 3 might come up more often than you think than the shield token. Anyways, we have the Max Rebo band. This is, of course, the band playing in Jabba's palace. Yeah, with the singing aliens. Oh, man. The CGI singing aliens. I've never actually seen the original release of. I only know of the CGI aliens when they re-released The Return of the Jedi. So I've never actually known what they did in the original release of this movie. But anyways, Max Rebo Band states when the regroup phase starts, create a credit token. A real great way just to create a credit token, the regrouping phase. That combos amazingly with Max Rebo Legendary. Yes, the Max Rebo and his band are playing together, folks. This card is going to be hunted down by a lot of strategies. I mean, he is green-yellow. He does not have ability tag. He does not have a heroic tag. And if they're with a amazing effect, which again helps with a lot of the green's naturality of wanting to ramp, there's an additional regroup phase after the first regroup phase each round. And by the way, well, I think that it's already been QA'd or rather or spoken by Fatansy Flight that this stacks. So if both players have a Max Rebo, you get your first regrouping phase. So you'll draw your 2, place your 1 if you so wish. Then Max Rebo triggers, you draw your 2, you place 1 if you want. Then the second Max Rebo triggers of draw 2, place down 1. Because again, you personally can't have more than 1 Max Rebo out because of the uniqueness trigger. But you and your opponent can both have 1. And this doesn't say after the first, so it's not like only 1 triggers. You just get an additional regroup phase after the first regroup phase each round. So typically you always have your mandatory regroup phase, and then this will give you a secondary regroup phase, which then if your opponent has 1, gives you a third regroup phase. So technically, if you and your opponent have 1, you dug 6 cards deep and resource 3 cards. Yeah, and then if you have Max Rebo Band out, you just create 3 credit tokens or even 2 credit tokens. So yeah, this is I like this legendary. I think this legendary is going to see some very interesting play because it's a good card for green. Just be mindful that you and your opponent are both getting the regrouping phase. It's not you get an additional regrouping phase. There's an additional one. So do be cautious on that. As good as this card is and as highly valuable, I think this is going to be a good legendary for a lot of green strategies to play with, especially because they need their ramp to play into. This does mean that you and your opponent are now ramping at a constant rate to each other. So just be cautious that you are giving your opponent a chance to play their higher rated guys out slightly cheaper at a faster pace than if you had ability. But still, really cool legendary. I think it's going to see a lot of play. Just be cautious that the fact is you and your opponent are getting the exact same timing. So you are digging your opponent 4 cards deeper into their deck while you're digging 4 card deeper, and you're both being able to play at least 2 resources on 1 regrouping phase before you do anything. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very cool card indeed. So be on the lookout, folks. If you're looking for a legendary already from this set, I'd be on the lookout for this. I would really like this. Funny enough, I joked. I really would like this card to be the Store Showdown card for A Lawless Time. I like this to be the top 8 promo. That would be a really cool promo. Because right now we've already seen it. They've already done a couple legendaries for the promos for this. And being that a Secrets of Power was Queen Amidala, a very meta relevant card in the game, I could see them doing this as the top 8. Anyways, our second leader, we got Saboba. Yes. Oh, yes. Are you a fan of pod racing from, of course, episode 1, The Phantom Menace? Are you a fan of that whole scene with the pod racers? That is right. We know that we're going to get a bunch of speeders in this set. Of course, we know that they're all from the pod racers. They're all going to be pod racers because why else would we have a bunch of speeders besides pod racers? But nonetheless, we have a Saboba leader that doesn't even associate himself with pod racing. That's hilarious enough if you think about it. The pod racer guy doesn't even associate himself with pod racing. His whole gimmick isn't even about pod racing. Alright, anyways, action, tap and discard a card for your deck. A friendly unit gains raid 1 for this phase, and then you flip for 4, by the way, 2/5, raid 1 on attack, discard a card from your deck. So naturally, you can already discard. So the turn before you flip, you tap, discard a card, give a unit raid 1. Then you can flip that turn, give raid 1, and you can swing for a good amount of damage. Someone was pointing out that they're working already on a deck, someone from my locals who's wanting to do something really nasty with Sebulba, of being able to win potentially on their turn 4 play. We'll have to see if they can actually get it to pull itself off, but they have started theory crafting with Sebulba. So, a really cool card. Also, Monchin-Ro is still legal in the game, so you can play him with yellow and get Monchin-Ro, so then you can play out Monchin-Ro and then go Sebulba to then give it a raid to someone. Monchin-Ro doubles that raid, so technically that raid is now 2, and then Sebulba flips and gives himself raid 2. So yeah, it's a really cool leader, but I think the one thing I don't like about this Sebulba is he's not a JTL-style leader. Why is he not a JTL-style leader? He should be a JTL-style leader, and I get it. JTL was unique. Piloting leaders, everybody, piloting leaders. Why are we so afraid, Fantasy Flight, to bring back some leader concepts from the other series we have? This was a great chance to bring back piloting. Bring back Sebulba piloting because we got his pod racer as well. Or you could at least done something interesting with him where he was more like coordinated with pod racing and everything like that. But still, I don't know. I wish the game would tell us if pod racing is going to be like another game mechanic, because I'll tell you right now, we have many different games out there in the entirety of the TCG, and we have many different win mechanics in those games. I don't know if Lorcana has a secondary win mechanic, but if we were to look at, say, Magic the Gathering and Commander, you a lot of times have just infinite loops where you make stuff. You have the infect counters. Yu-Gi-Oh! You have FTKs and OTKs, and then the other win cons like Exodia. If you get all 5 pieces, you win the game. I was hoping maybe pod racing would come out as like this secondary win con that you could like you race 3 laps and trying to win or stuff like that, and you could just auto win the game if you hit a certain milestone, pushing your opponent to have to counteract you from winning that game. So that's just kind of my thought, where I kind of wish we had something interesting like that, where pod racing could be like a secondary win mechanic in Star Wars Unlimited, because otherwise Star Wars Unlimited doesn't really have the ability to FTK. The OTK is kind of, I would put around parentheses, does a deck truly OTK? You can have decks like Piet that can basically play a big guy out and kill you only in a couple turns because you don't have response to big capital vessel in the sky. But other than that, there's not really an OTK strategy. There's no FTKs in Star Wars Limited because there's no way to physically FTK someone in a game where you're mana-based. Because remember, FTK is first turn kill. Only games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Really can get off with FTKs because there's no mana base in Yu-Gi-Oh! But still, I would like a secondary win con to finally come to this game more than beat down your opponent. That's kind of just how this game's going. It's straight beat down your opponent or control into your opponent until you deck your opponent out and they slowly burn their base because they can't draw. I would have preferred to maybe see something like that. But again, I wish this was a JTL style leader. I don't know why they're afraid to just print a JTL style leader in this set. They could have made one. We're going to talk about an Anakin unit that we got that should have been a pilot unit as well. But I don't know. Like I said, I think Fantasy Flight needs to start getting out of this stigma that each set needs to be unique and they can't really use other things for other sets. Come on, we just had the capture mechanic come back to set 6 from set 2. We had the capture mechanic come back. Why can't you bring the JTL mechanic back of piloting leaders in this set? This would have been a great time to put Sebulba. It would have been thematic and perfect. He's piloting a pod racer, everybody. But, I don't know. I'm not Fantasy Flight, but I really do think they need to start considering getting back the older concepts. We're about to rotate out smuggle and not have any more smuggle cards. Bounties are gone, all of this stuff. Like, come on. Well, I don't really need exploit or coordinate. I think those were horrible keywords. Those were not good keywords at all. So if you want to get rid of those keywords completely or just do a rare smattering of them, it's fine by me. But this should have been a JTL style leader, 100%. Anyways, we got some rare base, our common bases, everyone. 27 health common bases that all have the same epic action that you can ignore an aspect penalty on a card of your choosing. So we have the Aldani Garrison, we have the Stygian Spire, we have the Kanto Bite. Oh, good. We get the Consino as a card. Woo! Anyways, beside that, we got our new rare base and Citadel Research Center Epic Action Pay 1 return a friendly resource to its owner's hand. If you do, resource the top card of your deck. So basically, if you resource something into your resources that you need to grab back, you can do that. By the way, the best way to do it is just take the card that you want to add back, pay for its epic action, and then pick that card back up. And then you put the top card of your deck. Now, it is going to come, the top card is going to come in rested because it doesn't say come in active. But still, I don't know. I don't feel good about these rare bases. The rare bases have not at all astonished me. None of them are really like what we've seen before with like Data Vault or Colossus. They just don't feel good. Even like the rare bases from Secret, well, we didn't get rare bases out of Secret Powers, but rare bases out of Legends of the Force. Like only really one of to maybe two, like if you're really in the Destruction Temple because of hitting your opponent in the face and then being able to gain the Force, or the Virgin's Temple where you automatically, where I've seen a couple of decks be able to win with the Virgin's Temple because of just setting up your Virgin's Temple, getting out your guides with your big health points, and then being able to create the Force that way. So, I don't know. The 27 health base that can ignore aspect penalties, that's probably going to be played if you're in that strange deck coloration where you need to be, where you have cards out of, where have at least an aspect out of aspect and you don't want to pay the cost for them. One-time use is okay, but I expect to see a lot more of the 30 health bases, and I expect to see a lot of Data Vault running around as our bases of choice in the meta. The Interrogation Droid, when played, exhausts a unit. If you do, the unit costs 3 or less. The controller discards a card from their hand. Pretty nice, just a nice way to get rid of a card out of their hand. Again, hand control is just so important. We are losing pillage, so you're not going to be able to rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, but still ripping 1 card out is still very important because a lot of times that can turn into their mechanic of what do I get rid of for certain strategies. It's also pretty annoying if you were to throw this, say, against the Vader that has to discard his cards out of his hand so you can deal 1 damage or something. Not exactly a great thing to run into, but still pretty cool. I mean, it exhausts, by the way, exhausts any enemy unit, so it's just great to exhaust something that may or may not potentially hurt you or win your opponent the game or anything like that to help you stall out the game. And you just get the extra benefit if you pitched if you rested a guy with 3 costs or less, your controller discards a card from their hand. But still, a nice exhaustion can never be understated because it's just really, really nice to be able to exhaust stuff and be able to sustain out the game state so that you can get to your point of the game state. Shadow of the Stygian Prime. Attach to a non-leader unit. Attached unit can't ready. It gains when the regroup phase starts. Deal 2 damage to your base. So this one's definitely going to be one of those upgrades that you're going to throw on your opponent's units so that you can attached unit can't ready and it gains when the regroup phase starts. Deal 2 damage to your base. So basically, this is going to be one of those you slip under one of your opponent's non-leader units that you never want to restand like Frozen and Carbonite. And then your opponent's going to then take 2 damage for every time it just sits there rested on their regrouping phase, eating 2 damage to their base each time. So I expect to see a lot of strategies that are playing around this coloration or even outside this coloration to be able to just go, I'm just going to put that under your guy, rest that big nuisance, and then you're going to have to find a way to peel it off your guy so that you don't take 2 damage to your base. Be cautious about if you put this under your unique unit. The unique rule still does trigger in this game. So if let's say you put it under Max Rebo, just because that's the first unique unit I could see without me thinking of all the unique units in the game. So you put this under Max Rebo doesn't stand, and then your opponent takes 2 damage. But if your opponent plays another Max Rebo, they just have to kill the Max Rebo with the upgrade on it and then knocks itself out. As well as we do have the Constable from Secrets of Power that can knock out upgrades as well. So do be mindful that your opponent can choose their own upgrades to knock out as well. So yeah. We also have the Junior Senator, which can do it as well. Actually, no, Junior Senator's on, I think, 3 or less. So yeah, because it doesn't say non-unique. So you do have the one resistance girl that can knock out upgrades as well. And I think you have the probe droid from LOF that can knock out upgrades as well. So do be mindful your opponent does have ways to knock out non-unique upgrades off their own cards. So yeah, so you could stick it under something that's non-unique and then the unique rule can't knock it out off your guy. So meaning that your opponent would have to play an upgrade hate card to get this off the board. because your guy never gets to, because the attached unit can never attack, meaning it never can ready itself unless it's ready by some other effect. Because I want the QA, because I think Frozen Carbonite states that the unit cannot restand even by effects. So if it states that it can't be restood by effects, it's always just going to be there, and you can constantly swing over anything else on your opponent's base, and your opponent has to sit there taking 2 damage to their face every regroup phase. This is also a good way to like end out games as well. If your opponent has very little health left, you can go Shadows of the Stygian Prime under a guy, rest it. Not only do you save yourself from it doesn't rest it, by the way, so it just can't ready. So put it under something that's already swung, and then if your opponent's on very little health or there's little health left, you can just easily just ping them that last 2 damage and then knock them out. So still something pretty cool to think about. Again, it's like Condemn, one of those upgrades you are slapping under one of your opponent's unit and not your own, because I don't know who wants to take 2 damage to their own base. But anyway, still a really good rare. I expect this to see some play for decks that can get in this coloration. We got a BT1. I was wondering if we were going to get these 2 droids. I believe they're Dr. Alphan's droids. I don't know. You can quote me down in the comments if that's correct. But anyways, they are very good not only for Sebulba, they're also very good for Darth Vader as well. So anyways, BT1 states that on attack, discard a card for your deck. If it's red, you may deal 1 damage to a ground unit. Again, that's kind of what Sebulba's are doing, but still, just on attack, discard the top card of your deck and being able to ping it 1 damage to a, if it's red, which again, if you're in mono red or even red in some other color, that's a really great way to just ping damage to your opponent. By the way, it's Underworld as well, so you can't play this in CAD red in the Eternal format. And then we have, on attack, you may put a red card from your discard pile to the bottom of your deck. If you do, deal 1 damage at each enemy base. So really good in Twin Suns as well, but still a nice combination of droids where this is going to discard cards. If you hit red, deal 1 damage to ground unit. Is really nice to put red cards back in the bottom of your deck and then just ping damage to your opponent. A great way not to deck yourself out because of Sebulba's effect here. Sebulba, to give raid 1 to one of your guys, has to discard the top card of your deck. And every time he attacks, he has to discard the top card of his deck as well. So do be mindful that if you don't want to suddenly deck yourself out, because restock is rotating out of the format as well, so you're not going to be able to use restock to save yourself. The OO is definitely going to be something that you'll need to utilize so that you don't potentially kill yourself. Not mentioning a nice little ping against the base and cycling guys back to the bottom of your deck is really nice. So overall, pretty cool card. Again, it does have the Underworld tag, so if you're a CAD player, you can do that as well. We got Sebulba's Pod Racer. Like I said, we have Sebulba's Pod Racer. Sebulba should have been a JTL leader to equip to his Pod Racer. It would have been very thematic. Sebulba's Pod Racer, a 3/3/3. When you discard a card for your deck, you may ready this unit. Use ability only once each round. So basically, what you can easily do, like when I said, one of my locals is saying that what you do is you go swing this Sebulba effect to pitch to give this raid 1, restand it, swing it again with raid 1, and then you can flip the Sebulba, and then you can do more damage. So, and again, if you have Monch and Row out, getting doubled on all of that stuff. Not mentioning with BT1 and OO clearly wanting to be put in Sebulba, you can then do stuff like that. Especially OO probably in Sebulba is pretty nice because you're going to cleave through your deck a lot of time, and a lot of time you might want to put cards you want to see back in your deck at the bottom. But still, really cool card here. Really fun one, especially for the Sebulba leader. We have Valorant Valence. I'm not exactly sure who this is from. It looks like some kind of cyborg man. I'm thinking it's probably the comics. I don't know. You guys are gonna have to correct me down in the comments. It might be a comic book character. I have not read all of like the canon Star Wars comics. Anyways, 5, 3, 6 in vigilance and aggression. On attack, draw a card. You may deal damage to a grounding equal to the number of cards you've drawn this phase. So can't remember actually how much draw power we have now in the game, because we have a lot of draw power in the Eternal format, especially if you play this in pre-Vizsla red, pre-Vizsla blue, because I play pre-Vizsla's already red naturally. So pre-Vizsla likes you to draw cards because then he gets his own effect to drawing the damage. So this is a really good card for pre-Vizsla in Eternal, because this will be great because not only on attack you get to draw a card and then deal damage to the ground equals the number of cards you draw in this phase, which again, you have cards in the Eternal format that can draw you more cards. And then Pre-Vizsla, and then not mentioning because we'll draw so much in Pre-Vizsla, which still I know some people complain that we should not have rotated out 1, 2, and 3 after set 7. We should have probably done it after set 10. Set 10, rotate out 1, 2, and 3 so that you can play with more of these cards. But technically, we have the Eternal format, so technically all these cards are still playable as long as the Eternal format isn't a mess. We still don't know how they're going to handle ban listing. We know there's going to be PQs and big tournaments with the Eternal format, alongside the Premier format and all that. So people who don't want to play with those old cards that have so been burned by the Eternal format cards, don't want to play with them anymore, they have Premier now to go to where they can feel fresh. Not have to worry about those nuisance cards like Hot Shot Blasters and Han Spark and Han Shadow and ECL and Tarkin Town and all of that. But still, pretty good card. I can't remember if we got much draw from JTL's secret LOF or secrets. From this one for Law, but still, think about this one if you're going to play Pre-Vizsla and Eternal, and that and Aggressive Negotiations are going to be really fun to combo together. Anyways, we have the Mandalorian, the Wall. He is our another legendary, so he's gotten 2 legendaries revealed so far in this part. We got the Max Rebo, and we got the Mandalorian. In red-blue with 6/5/6. When played, just draw a card. When you draw 1 or more cards during the action phase, give a shield token to this unit. Basically, you draw more cards during action phase, he will trigger his own. He will give himself a shield token when he is played, because he automatically draws 1 when played, which then triggers his secondary ability, which allows himself to give himself a token. Then if you combo him with Valor and Balance, and then on attack draw a card, you can then... I don't think this triggers multiple times. When you draw 1 or more cards during the action phase, give a shield token to this unit. So we'll have to see if this combos, like for instance, when played, because it doesn't say once per turn, you give a shield token, like we see with like only usability once each round. This doesn't say once each round. So I'm wondering if any time you draw after he's played on the battlefield and has already triggered his effect, you didn't get a shield. My guess would be no, because he's already met the trigger mechanic there, so he already drew 1 or more cards during the action phase, so you automatically just bring a shield token with his own play effect of drawing. But we'll have to see what the erratas say about him, if this just can trigger multiple times as long as you draw 1 or more cards during your action phase, which means that you can combo with this guy, giving you another shield token. But I could see if that is the case, that's kind of annoying, because then this means that you can basically make this into a guy that has like 3 or 4 shield tokens on him, especially in Eternal for Pre-Vizsla, because of the fact that his doesn't say once per round. So I think honestly he's probably going to be one of those leaders where it's meant to be a once per round, give a shield token to him. But still, really nice. It's a nice card that just draws 1, which again, drawing cards in this game is very important. Keeping that hand filled with your cards so that you can cycle through your deck, find what you need to find to play it, and continue to push the game in your favor. But yeah, still a really cool card. A 6/5 that comes down shielded automatically, draws you 1, and then gets a shield, and being able to punch into something is really nice. And also, he is not restricted by any coloration. Like, he doesn't have to go in heroic or go into villainy. He's just mono blue-red. We have the Tantin 4. 7/5/8 with Restore 2. When played, if a friendly unit was defeated this phase, heal 4 damage from your base. Kind of a nice way of, we have seen the Rebel stuff. We've seen it with Jyn Erso, where Rebels die, get something. You could put this in to say Luthen. Luthen wants to kill units so that he can then trigger his effect. So yeah, pretty cool. It does have the Rebel keyword tag as well for Jyn Erso. But still, pretty cool. A nice little card here that has already Restore 2 and can heal 4 damage from your base on play. But just to be mindful, it is a 7/5/8 for Restore 2. So just be mindful that it is a very late game Restore 4. But still, Restore 2, Restore 4 is still not bad. And again, depending on if you're in a green strategy, you could potentially ramp up to where this becomes cheaper. Anyways, moving on, we have the Core VX Security Captain. Each enemy credit token loses all abilities. There you go, folks. That's the way to deal with your credit token. So this is definitely going to be a side deck card, 100%. And the problem is though, it's mono blue. And we've seen other decks that, like Bazines right now in Villainy, are being played in any deck strategy that doesn't even run yellow in it. So, I mean, at that point, it's a 5 cost, but still, each enemy credit token loses all abilities. If credit tokens become very strong in the meta, this will be something to sideboard into. Now, if you're already playing naturally blue, that's really nice because then you won't have to pay a penalty to play it. But if you're outside of blue, just be cautious that you're going to be paying a penalty. Now, again, we do have cards that can ignore aspect penalties on stuff. Anyways, we've seen the uncolored card that can do it. We've seen the bases can do it, but just be mindful that if you aren't using those, you will pay 5 if you're outside of vigilance. But still, this card probably will see some play in the side decks if credit tokens become meta viable. Heck, even some decks may main it in blue just because the meta might run into credit tokens. So this is a really nice way. It has a good survivability of 2 and 4. Also, we will talk about a leader that will definitely be utilizing this 100%. But the really good card. Really nice card, especially to counteract the meta play where like I've said, I think credits are going to be very much meta viable in this upcoming set. So I do expect a lot of decks to try to smash credits into it. So that they can cheapen their units and play them a lot faster. Attack from all sides. 3, deal 3 damage to a unit. If there are 4 or more different aspects among friendly units, deal 5 damage to that unit instead. It's just another deal damage to a unit card. Again, Red's always had the best, like, deal damage to a unit cards. Open Fire, Cell Block, Daring Raid, Attack from all sides, Let's Call it War. But again, this is going to be interesting. You may only a few times might be able to get off the multi-aspect, deal 5 damage to that unit instead, because you're really going to have to matter on what your opponent's playing. If your opponent's still in a 2 mono system of they're only running, let's say blue, red, and white, then that's not going to be enough because you only have 3 different aspects. But if they're in multicolors, then yeah, this will come up. But again, a nice card just for a 3 to deal 3 damage to units, potentially knock something out, is always going to be nice. You have the Scavenging Sandcrawler, 1/7 for 4. On attack, you may put a card from your discard pile bottom of your deck. If you do, create a credit token. Really nice. It kind of pushes the fact that Sebulba may want to go into yellow. I already know if you're going to play Monchenro. I believe Monchenro is yellow, so you'd always have to be in yellow. So this is just a great way for you to spam Monchenro out that much faster. So being able to, on attack, put a card at the bottom of your deck, and then being able to, not a red card because you want to be able to put back red cards. So putting anything back, creating a credit token is just really nice. So overall, pretty cool card. Probably going to see some play for certain strategies. I could see this being played like in that Vader, like in Vader as well. But mostly I see this being played in Sebulba just to support Sebulba. But still, being able to put cards in the bottom of your deck and then create credit tokens on attack and a 1/7 body is pretty nice. Then we have Transition Jamming. Name a card. Cards that name can't be played this phase. It's just a good way to disturb your opponent. I see this as a side deck card for yellow strategies if you know what your opponent's up against, because otherwise, unless you know what your opponent's starting out with, it's not a really great card to put in your main. It's more of a side deck card that game 2, I know my opponent's playing now, that I'm going to use this to disturb them for a turn. So, pretty nice. We got the Client, another leader here for you all. With action, if you create a credit token this phase, exhaust enemy unit. Which comes out 5 with shielded on attack. If you create a credit token this phase, create a shield token. So you have to create credit tokens. For this guy to even work at 5 for 4, shielded, I don't feel great about that. The effect doesn't sound great either. So the aspect here is that, yes, it's nice to exhaust stuff, but it feels kind of like that C-3PO effect that we read from Secrets of Power. Is like, C-3PO can rest stuff if you have a unit out. I believe that's rested. And then you can rest one of your opponent's units. I don't know. It just doesn't feel great overall. It's cool, but the decks, this effect, him, front side, and his back side, are only ever going to work if you're playing credit tokens. So this deck is going to have to spam credit tokens. So we've seen Lady Promaxia, we've seen other cards that can spam up credit tokens. You need credit tokens to be created. The Scavenging Sandcrawler, you need credit tokens. if you're not producing credit tokens or your opponent basically stops you from producing credit tokens, they will basically pinch you and basically never let you use your leader. And that's your problem. It's the same for many of the LOF leaders. If they don't have the force, they can't do anything. So a lot of times your opponent can easily pinch you by basically swinging and killing off your force units before you swing with them to gain the force on like the common force bases, which is why I think a lot of people kind of flew into the rare bases like Destruction Temple and Virgin's Temple. Virgin's Temple being more popular because you just need a guy with 4 or more health points on him to gain the force. Destruction Temple needs you to deal 4 or more damage, so a lot of times that can get mitigated and pinched via just making sure your opponent can't deal 4 damage to your base. But still, it's an okay card. It's another way for yellow to rest. We've seen yellow is the control strategy. It's the rest strategy. It's the, we're going to grind out the game strategy, with blue being more of the control color. But still, this can be easily pinched if once your opponent knows what you're doing by easily smashing into anything that creates credit tokens. Basically making sure that you can't create credit tokens to rest stuff. So, I don't know. I'm not impressed with it. This basically is a leader that needs a strategy to go off. And if you can't get that strategy to go off, or you don't see the cards to help you get that strategy going off, then you will be punished. Punished hard because you will never get that rest off. But still, if you are able to get off the credit tokens, you can rest stuff, which can be very valuable. It's just going to be one of those leaders that's a hit and miss that if you see your package correct. Moving on, we got Anakin Skywalker. Like I said, this is Anakin and a pod racer. We have his pod racer. Why he's not a pilot card, I don't know. Why doesn't he have a pilot cost attached to him? I don't know. Because Fantasy Flight likes to create their own unique thing for each set and then basically forget about it. Again, we've seen Capture, which was a set 2 thing, come back in set 6, so it's coming back. They would slowly integrate them back. So maybe by set 10, we'll have JTL back again. We'll have JTL style leaders and units back again. But nonetheless, we have a 2/2/4 when a friendly unit attack ends. If no other units attack this phase, you may return this to its own hand. If you do, heal 2 damage from your base. It's kind of doing the yellow bounce. So it's doing yellow's bounce effect with the blue heal. Yeah, it's a really fun one. When a friendly unit attack ends, if no other units have attacked this phase, you may return it to its own hand. If you do, heal 2 damage from your base. So basically, you get a one-time bounce a guy back to your hand, heal 2. Because after that, you will have had another friendly unit attack that phase. So basically, you're on this weird concept where you can only really have one unit attack each phase and then trigger this effect once. So basically, it's a only once per round ability, just because after that first unit attacked, you have technically now attacked with a unit for that phase. As a reminder, the phase is the entirety of the round of Star Wars Unlimited. So until you and your opponent have gone back to the regrouping phase, that is the entirety of the phase. So this is a once-time use on the phase. So just be cautious on that one, because the second you swing, you can't just swing, bounce, and then say, hey, I swung again, but I haven't swung with anyone else. No, you did swing with someone already. But still, really cool card. Really great way to protect some of those units. So you could swing a unit with a lot of damage on it that's about to die. Your opponent's going to pick off, swing, hit their base, being the first attack, bounce it back to your hand, and remove all that damage and get the guy back to your hand. So pretty cool, as well as it does have the force tag on it, just so you're aware. So if you do swing it with a force base, one of the common force bases, you can be able to claim the force, as well as it's in blue, so the Virgin's Temple can gain you the force as well, because it already has 4 health points on it as well. But still, really cool effect. I like this effect. But let's talk about his pod racer. Ooh, yeah, another legendary, our 3rd revealed legendary for this video. A 3/2 with ambush, and while attacking, if no other units have attacked this phase, this unit deals combat damage for the defending player. So a 3/2 that has first strike, as long as it's the first thing to swing. So pretty cool indeed. I know for a fact that decks like Boba from Shadow will probably use this in the Eternal format, because it has the keyword of ambush, meaning that you can tap it to give another unit an additional plus, and basically you can ambush this unit, attack, and then basically deal 3 straight damage. As long as you kill the unit with it, you'll be able to then not straight up die, but if you swing and you and your opponent and you don't kill the unit that you're attacking with this pod racer, you will die. So be cautious. First strike only means that you have to kill the unit off completely. It can't just go 3 damage to a unit with 4 health and then think I have first strike. No, the unit with 4 health deals back damage to you. So be cautious on that one. But if you have the Anakin, funny enough, and you attack a unit with like a 1/4, you attack it with the pod racer, then you could trigger Anakin's effect and then bounce it back to your hand as well. So that is something combination you could do here, is that you can have this Anakin out, swing this pod racer as the first thing. Even if, let's say it actually survives the attack, you can bounce it back to your hand with the Anakin because of the Anakin trigger. So that is a pretty cool combination you could do. I really like this pod racer. This is going to be a really fun one to play around with. This will always be the first thing you play each and every single turn, or the first thing you swing every single turn, because the ambush is whenever it comes out of your hand, but always this effect is always triggerable as long as it's the first thing to swing. So be mindful that if you want this effect to go off, this always has to be the first thing you swing into your opponent. But still, a really fun legendary indeed. I would expect this to get a prestige art. For another pod racer, we got the champion KT9 pod racer. When played, create a credit token, A323. Hey, look, the client can use it to make sure he can get his plays off. Which again, this is a when played, create a credit token, which then allows you to trigger the client's effect. We have Infant's Nest. So we all know Thrawn from JTL, right? The rare leader. I don't think he was rare. I think he was common. But anyways, the Thrawn from JTL stated on his front and back side is when you use a when defeated ability, you may double up that when defeated ability. So we got some really good when defeated cards from, of course, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we got some more, of course, through 5 and 6 that allow him to, of course, double up those abilities. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of people like red so that you can use the exploits of like Count Dooku, and you can exploit a bunch of your guys and then trigger their when defeated abilities and use Thrawn to double tap some of them. But still, that's really fun. That was the only like double tap leader where you could use another ability twice. But now we have Infant's Nest in Red Heroic. When you use an on attack ability, you may pay 2 and exhaust this leader. If you do, use this ability again. When you use an on attack ability, you may use that ability again, or use this ability once each round. I don't like that she pays to use an on attack ability, which it makes sense. When defeated abilities might be a little less powerful than on attack skills. And plus you have to actually lose the unit to get a when defeated ability to trigger. On attack triggers mean the unit just has to sit there on attack, do something. And we have a lot of interesting on attack trigger guys in the game. But to pay 2 just so you can double tap an on attack skill is not really great. It has to be when you use this skill. So your guy has to go on attack, you pay the 2, then to allow you to double tap the effect. When she's deployed, she's much, much better. No paying cost. It's just the Thrawn thing of when you use a when attack ability, double tap that when attack ability. Now, do be mindful that if you say you attack with a unit that has an on-attack ability, you don't have to double tap that guy's ability. You can double tap whenever you want. Just understand it's a one-time use double tap until you and your opponent have moved on to the next regrouping phase. So it's glad to see we're seeing more of the double tap cards, because I really think there are some really good stuff to double tap. I'd like to see a leader that double taps when played at skills. I think that would be really cool. But I'm glad to see that Thrawn double taps defeated, and we have Infant's Nest double tapping attack, even if her front side ability absolutely sucks. By the way, I think we haven't seen another rare leader in a while. The leaders we've looked at, I believe, are all common. Common, yep. I think Sebulba is a common. No, he's a rare. Okay, so he's another rare, and Han was a common. So it's a really cool leader. I think this has some very good use because of the fact that we have some really good on-attack triggers. It's just that I don't like her front side, being that she should have just been Thrawn. Double tap the attack triggers. I don't know why she needs to pay 2 to do it, but I guess just to keep under control of not making double tapping attack triggers broken in Eternal format or anything like that. I mean, if she's broken in Eternal, just ban her in Eternal. If she's broken, just ban her. But I get the reasoning. They don't want to immediately bring out the leader, make her bad, and immediately have to ban her because she's broken. But still, I don't know. I would really have liked her not to have paid 2 to use an on-attack trigger, but I get the reasoning why. They don't want to make on-attack triggers just straight up broken. double tapping like really good on attack triggers for free, like Thrawn does, but still, I don't know. At least when you flip her for 5, at least then you can just double tap without having the penalty, which then makes no sense. If she double taps without penalty on her backside, and that's when everyone's going to be double tapping all their good cards. I mean, who the heck's going to double tap their attack trigger on her front side? No, she needs to lose. She needs to lose that pay too. If she's broken, she's broken. Errata her. Has Fantasy Flight ever heard of the word errata her? Errata her. Turn her into this. Make her just double tap like Thrawn. We don't need to be paying this stuff. I don't know. I mean, it makes no sense. It's like Dryden. Like, I get it, like Dryden Voss. Like, they didn't want to make ECL the leader on the front side. So it's not ECL leader on the front side. But once he gets to the back side, it's like, well, now it's just fair game to ECL everything out. And then here comes all your wind played and on attack triggers getting ECL'd out for ambush. So, yeah. I'm not sure, but I guess they just don't want on attack triggers being. But I get this more than I understand Voss not wanting to be ECL the leader on the front side where it's just broken straight from the start. But still, I think maybe Infant's Nest should have lost the pay 2 on the front side to re-trigger attack triggers. But I don't know. Once she gets to her backside, she's a lot better. We have the Weasel or Weasel on attack. Give another friendly unit gains raid 2 for this phase. Again, if you double tap it with infants, then you can give raid 2 guys raid 2, or you can give it to the same guy and give him raid 4. By the way, because it just says another friendly unit gains raid 2. So technically, you could double tap it and give raid 4 to a single dude. So pretty cool card. Again, once we usually see a leader, we always see the cards that are associated with it. Some of the cards that support that leader. So we see a lot of the cards that a lot of times will support the leader so it can play off itself. We have the Arari. On attack, you may deal 2 damage to enemy ground unit, 2 damage to a base. That's also another really nice. Again, it is 6, so you want to play this with Infant's Nest is Awakened. So you might even consider just keeping Infant's Nest in your leader zone, and then play this out for 6, and then flip Infant's Nest the next turn. When you then have the attack, then you can deal 2 damage, 4 damage to a ground unit, 4 damage to a base, which is pretty nice. We have Infant's Nest Helmet, attached to a non-big unit. Attached unit gains on attack. You may give another unit +3 for the face. So you basically are just getting a buff of +2 to your health point to getting an on attack trigger, which again buffs up Infant's Nest ability. Then we have Tarmin Barkana. Again, we are seeing more cards from the Andor show as well. This is from season 1. This is when Andor gets recruited by Luthen to go and steal the banking documents from the Imperial station. So when played, you may defeat a credit token belonging to any player, by the way. They very much put that in parentheses to tell you it's not your credit tokens that have to be murdered. You can murder anyone's credit tokens. So if you're in like Twin Suns and your opponent's got credit tokens, you can murder their credit tokens. If you do, give an experience token to this unit and another friendly unit. That, I think, is going to be really good. Another card I think can see some very good play if credit tokens become very meta viable and you're in this coloration. Playing him down, being able to go when played, kill one of your opponent's credit tokens, and being able to give you and another guy experience token is pretty nice. Now, I hate that's a when played. I wish maybe it had been on attack trigger, but I get why on attack doesn't make sense, because then he just becomes extremely broken against credit decks. And I know Fantasy Flight wants to make credit tokens work. They want credit tokens to be in the meta. They don't want them just to be straight broken. But still, a great way to kind of deal with your opponent's credit tokens, so that in a plus that you get experience tokens to this guy and another guy. So pretty cool. We have the Solstin Sapper with Ambush and Overwhelm for 3/2. Pretty nice there. A nice little underworld card. A nice just new ambusher. We have the Cloud Rider Veteran on attack, deal 2 damage to a base. Pretty good. Another nice card to combo with, of course, Infant. We have the Thermal Detonator. Attached unit gains when defeated. If this unit was ready, deal 2 damage to each enemy ground unit. Kind of very nice. Another when defeated, like we talked about JTL Thrawn, that you double up with the Thrawn ability. So pretty cool. Anyways, it's got a +1/+1 on it as well. So you give a unit +1/+1 with a nice when defeated skill. But again, it has to be ready. That's the thing. So you basically, I would put it under a Sentinel if I'm being honest, because then your opponent has to kill the Sentinel, then the when defeated trigger goes off. Pretty nice. We got our first Double color leader. Now, I probably would expect maybe we'll get a couple more double color leaders or one more double color leader. So in Secrets of Power, we got DJ, which was a double monocolor leader, meaning that he was double yellow on him. So we had that leader come into the game, meaning that we had a double yellow leader. So it'd be no surprise that in a set that is multicolored cards, we'd get a multicolored leader. I don't want Saul to be the only multicolored leader we get out of this set. I would like to see another leader that's multicolored. I would like to see another leader that's multicolored. Or eventually, if multicolors are probably... I don't think multicolors are just going to be a single gimmick for a set. I really do think multicolors are going forward now in the game. I hope it's not a single set, because then Fantasy Flight really needs to just sit down and really think to themselves, we just made multicolored aspected cards for a single set, which makes no sense to me. I don't think it will be, but who knows? I'm not Fantasy Flight. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think multicolored aspect cards are going to be now stable in the game going forward. So I expect to see more cards that are multicolored. I would expect to see a multicolored leader that is got not only multicolors, but also got a heroic or a villainy tag attached to it. So probably expect to see those leaders at some time too. Anyways, Saul is kind of your new Maul from Twilight of the Republic. Maul gave a guy overwhelm when on an attack. So action, attack with a unit, it gets +2 and gains overwhelm for this attack. After completing this attack, defeat it. And if you chose 6 or more resources, you could win this attack. When the attack ends, if this unit survives, you may attack with another unit. It gets +2 and gains overwhelm for this attack. After completing this attack, defeat it. So what you're kind of saying right now is that this leader, yeah, you can get the +2 to swing in your opponent's base. It's real nice. Hit your opponent's base with that extra +2. But a lot of times what we're really seeing is that we want to be running over our opponent's guys with the overwhelm trigger. Again, overwhelm states that any damage that goes past their health points gets pushed into their base. For instance, you swing a 6-card unit at a 3-card health unit, a 6 power against 3 defense, 3 overwhelm damage happens because 3 damage kills it. The extra 3 damage then gets overwhelmed into your opponent's base. So that's what Saul really feels like to me. He's a leader of just, hey, I'm going to give you power and overwhelm. I want you to go smash into your opponent's base. Instead of smashing your opponent's base with the extra damage, I want you to smash into your opponent's units with the extra damage. So that's exactly what he is. That's what he's going to do. That's what he wants to do. Just be mindful that he murks everything that completes that attack. So just be mindful that if you swing at the base with the guy, he's dead. He just dies. Now, it's real nice because then if you have win defeated triggers, they can go off. So that's really nice because then you can get win defeat triggers. But again, it's going to be one of those interesting leaders. Does this leader actually get played? Because right now, DJ is garbage. No one plays DJ. Honestly, folks, I don't even know what to even play with DJ. I really thought DJ would be cool. I still think his showcase is cool. I like the hip thrust for power on him and his showcase with that. But do I know how to build him? No. Do I think he's good? No. But honestly, I don't even know where to even start. Blue was my only thought. Like, I'm going to put him in blue and then figure out from there. Because it's like, everything has to be monocolored. You can't play any heroic or any villainy in DJ unless you want to pay the penalty cost to him. But still, yeah, it's neat. I don't know. We'll have to see if Saul makes more of a splash than DJ, because DJ has not made a splash at all, and even I don't know how to build him. But like I said, I think these leaders get more complicated because you don't get the aspect of the heroic or villainy cards under there as well, unless you're willing to pay the aspect penalty for them. And we don't. Well, I guess we do have cards that ignore all aspect penalties, but none of the common basic ignore the heroic or the villainy aspect. But still, pretty cool card. I like him. I do like him. I mean, nice +2, gains overwhelm. He's definitely telling you that you want to be punching your opponent with your guys to overwhelm damage into them, so that overwhelms damage into your base. But yeah, still, it's cool. It's a little weird after you have to murk your own dudes. But still, the Valiant Commandos can use him. You could technically go swing Saw Valiant Commandos, and I don't know when the triggering will trigger off the Valiant Commandos, because after Valiant Commandos swing, they technically kill themselves to put 3 more damage on your base, but Saul states after completing the attack, defeat it. So I guess you would again get the timing situation of who do you want to actually resolve first. So in this case, you resolve the Valiant Commandos, and then Saul technically would resolve second, but the card's already been defeated, so Saul has nothing to defeat. But still, I think he's going to be fun. I like Overwhelm. I think Overwhelm is an underused keyword. And this is going to be fun because it's basically telling you exactly what you're going to do. Swing at your opponent and beat them into the face with guys. That's what you're going to do. Swinging at your base, I guess you swung an extra couple of damage points to your opponent's base and immediately blew up your own unit for nothing. Unless they have a win defeated trigger. So I can see a lot of win defeated triggers being played in him just because then you're allowed to get not only the additional attack on your opponent, but also so you could swing base and then kill your thing and then get some triggers off of that. So pretty cool card. I definitely see some interesting stuff with him. Well, we have another leader in Vel-Sareth. Of course, I believe this is the Eldarnian insurgent. This is the person that Cassian goes work for in the when they do the heist. Action: give an experience token to a unit, and opponent creates a credit token. Flip for 6. On attack, give an experience token to a unit. If you do, an opponent creates a credit token. As a reminder, experience tokens are upgrades. I know we've already talked about that, but I just want to reiterate that again. All right. So we've seen why this unit down here is very important, because it's definitely going to be a mainstay in Val decks because of the fact that this is going to create your opponent a lot of credit tokens. Because why are you not just going to get a free tap to give an experience token to a unit? Yeah, you create credit tokens to your opponent, which is never great, but we also have seen cards like, of course, Tarman that can kill credit tokens, your opponent's credit tokens, and then being able to give you an experience to himself and then another unit. And we've seen, of course, this guy down here. And we're going to see a couple of other cards that kind of deal with your opponent's credit tokens as well. That deal with your opponent's credit tokens as well, just so you don't give your opponent a bunch of extra space. But anyways, flipping for 6 for 4/7, also really nice. But able to give anything an experience token with the caveat to giving your opponent a credit token, I don't think that should be understated at all. While your opponent gets a credit token and can reduce the cost of their guys with a credit token, the cost of their units or cards with a credit token, giving experience tokens to guys should not be understated. Buffing them up to be humongous is very good. Like the Sintikaz from this set, that as long as it's upgraded, so you can you play Sintikaz, you use Val, give Sintikaz the experience token, give your opponent the credit token, and Sintikaz now has is now upgraded so that she now has Sentinel. So yeah, I think it's going to be very cool. I think Vel is going to be a very interesting leader indeed. Something I'm already probably going to tinker with as well. And again, we are getting cards in this set that are able to deal with credit tokens. And I already see any Val deck going to mandatorily put 3 of these guys in the deck. And then you can use Val to pump this guy up with credits, pump this guy up with experience. And no matter how many times your opponent has a credit token, your opponent's going to have to deal with this guy to get rid of it, so that they can then use the credit tokens you're giving them. And in that meantime, you can use other cards to deal with your opponent's credit tokens. So, pretty cool leader. Definitely something to think about for all you, because I think there's nothing wrong with giving experience tokens to units. Yes, we had the Leia that can give experience token to unit, but the Leia was a whole lot more restrictive because you had to disclose a unit with a aspect on it and then give an experience token to a unit that doesn't share that aspect. That's a whole lot harder to do than tap, give experience token to unit. Attack, give experience token to unit. So, really cool card, very neat card. Something to think about if you're looking for a fun leader to play. Anyways, we got Obi-Wan Kenobi in his Clone Wars armor, Protector of a Felucia. So he's a 7/7/7. 7/7/7. Why couldn't they make him a 6/6/6? Mark of the Beast. He has Sentinel, why control 7 or more units. Their printed power is considered to be 7, and their printed HP is considered to be 7. Can we put any more 7s in there? I believe that is, if my Warhammer knowledge is correct, I believe that's the mark of Nurgle, by the way. 7 is the mark of Nurgle. Obi-Wan has the mark of Nurgle. Because I believe Khorne is 8. Yeah, I think Khorne is 8. I don't know what... Or maybe that's Tzeentch. Maybe Tzeentch is the mark of 7. I thought Nurgle was the mark of 7. All right, research it. Yes, Nurgle is the mark of 7. Tzeentch is the mark of 6, mark of 9, and Slaanesh is the mark of 6. I know, Warhammer facts in your Star Wars video. Anyways, it's a cool leader, a cool concept of what this card could do. It's also legendary, by the way. When I actually read this card, I didn't even realize this is a legendary. It's a cool card. Now, someone at my locals pointed out that, Akbar is yellow. Akbar, rest a guy, create whoever, rest any unit that player creates an X-Wing token. You can rest your own guys and create an X-Wing token. Akbar is really good at mass producing X-Wing tokens, enough to wear 7 units. It doesn't even say 7 non-token units. It's 7 units, all have printed 7/7. So Akbar could be able to play this, because if that one of these two colors had not been blue or green and had been yellow, Akbar could play it, create a bunch of tie tokens, drop this on turn 7, and then make every single tie token in the entirety of every single X-Wing token a 7/7 beat stick. So good luck beating my 7/7 beat sticks in the sky. So I get why he's not Akbar, why they did not give him yellow, because Akbar would be the easiest way to abuse this, and they'd immediately have to ban this card, or ban Akbar as a leader, because then all your opponent would be doing is, I'm just going to rest, make 7 or more X-Wing tokens in the sky, drop him, make all my X-Wing tokens 7/7s now. Fear every single one of my 7/7 tokens that now can hit you in the face for 7 damage. Good luck defeating them all. So yeah, I understand why they are not aren't putting him in the Akbar. Now, nothing saying Akbar can't play him. Akbar would have to drop him for 9, but still, just something to think about why Akbar couldn't play him. But still, an interesting card. I like the concept of him as well. But other than maybe Akbar, I don't see many decks being able to stabilize 7 dudes on their battlefield, 7 more dudes on their battlefield, including your leader, and then being able to give everyone 7/7. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure if that's even going to be possible outside of Akbar. Akbar might be actually the only leader to do it, because most strategies, your opponent's not giving you a body of dudes. Now, again, maybe token creation decks can do it, but even then, we don't really have, token creation decks, really, even in this game. The most created tokens in any game right now is from, the officials. But the only good heroic official is Queen Amidala, and Queen Amidala only creates 2 spy tokens at most. And most of the time, those spy tokens die instantaneously, so your opponent can kill Queen Amidala. So yeah, I don't know. Still, cool card, cool concept of the card. This actually will work in Twin Suns if you can play Akbar and then play someone else with blue and then just green as your base. There you go. Now you can play him in Twin Suns with Akbar and have your 7/7s running everywhere. Anyways, we have a Defiant Scrapper Wind Plate. May defeat an enemy credit token. Just something for Val there, as we've seen before. Now you can play, just defeat a credit token, so that way your opponent can't use it. So, like I said, we are seeing ways to deal with your opponent, kill your opponent's credit token so your opponent doesn't get the plus of you gaining experience tokens. We have a Rodanian Bondsman. When defeated, each player creates a credit token, so a 2/2/3 that basically creates credit tokens on death. Not bad. Thrawn could double tap this, by the way, if you really wanted to create 2 credit tokens. Give each player 2 credit tokens. We got a Kill Switch. This art is goofy as hell. I wouldn't even know, can TIE Fighters suddenly eject off their wings? Their solar panel wings? That really is something they could do in Star Wars? But anyways, besides the goofy art, when play exhaust a unit, gets -1/-1. If you know Perilous Positions from Twilight of the Republic, that is exhaust enemy unit, give it -2/-2. This is just basically its little cousin with -1/-1. Except Perilous Position was 3 cost. This is a 2 cost. Still, nothing bad. I mean, it exhausts enemy unit, gives it -1/-1. It's not very bad. If your opponent has enough damage on a unit, you can slip this right under it, kill it right off the board. So, pretty cool. Other than that, not great, but still pretty nice little card if you ever needed to do something with that. Again, do not ever fathom about exhausting enemy units. Exhausting units is always going to be a good way to survive and grind out in those game states. Partisan Infantry has 2/2/3 with raid 1. That's really about it. We have the payroll heist. Again, this is Cassian's major heist on that Imperial planet. Remember, they're stealing all those records and money from, of course, that Imperial base. For this phase, each friendly unit gains on attack, create a credit token. A really cool card here. I think a lot of decks might play it in green. Again, Piet has access to this, by the way. Remember, Piet Red is still going to play a good amount of droids on its battlefield, because I think Piet Droid Red is going to be the meta for Piet post-rotation, because not only did they get the Persecutor from this set, it hasn't really lost a lot of the droid support, because the Invisible Hand was from JTL. A lot of the really good droids, like Gonk, HK-47. You do lose a Separatist bomber, but again, you could replace that with the other bomber. If you need a droid, or any other droids, like the probe droid, or you could place it with the muckraker crab droid, anything like that. So being able to use Piet to then buff up your ground force, and then using that, even you could flip Piet, use this, and then get a bunch of credits and burn credits to outproduce further costing of your space units. So I think this will see some play in Piet. I don't know if it will be mandatory in Piet. I think it will be up in the air who really wants to play it. But if you can get enough bodies out as well, like token bodies even, it's really good. Also, be mindful. A lot of time Akbar plays in green, especially green data vault. Green data vault. He can actually play this card, and because he can create X-Wing tokens, and it's each friendly unit, including tokens, gains on attack created credit tokens. So if you've let Akbar create enough X-Wing tokens, not only can he just do this, he can create, now he can drop this, create credit tokens, and then he can potentially even drop this Kenobi on you. So I could definitely see a combination where Akbar tries to use this to drop this. But still, pretty cool card. Just a great way to create credit tokens. Like I said, I think they want to push credit tokens to be very much meta relevant in this format. We have Lieutenant Gorn. On attack, take control of a credit token. Again, just a nice way to work with Vel. So you can easily go Vel, give an experience token to something, have him attack, and then immediately steal that experience token. So you can buff him up. So you buff him up with the credit token, and then you go on attack, steal the credit token that you just gave them. So again, we're seeing ways to really deal with credit tokens for Vel to be very much meta viable, where you can easily go Vel, buff up your guys, Merc credit tokens, turn off effects of credit tokens, or even just steal credit tokens. And by the way, don't give it back to your opponent. You keep it. So basically, you could go grab credit token, grab credit token, grab credit token. Again, another card, in my opinion, that could see some very interesting play if credit tokens become very meta viable, of a lot of yellow decks spamming this guy into their deck so that they can steal your credit tokens off of you and forcing you to have to play differently. Still, pretty cool card. Another rare there for you all. By the way, he's an Imperial and a Rebel. By the way, if you don't know the show, I believe this is the guy that's a double cross agent. So he works in the Imperial facility they're trying to raid, Cassian and the little stalwart group that Vel controls. Then he also is a rebel as well. He tells them their secrets. So it's pretty cool to see we have a multi type card with Imperial and Rebel, which is pretty neat. Callous Bounty Hunter, it's a 3/3/4 with Saboteur. That's about it. Just Underworld Bounty Hunter. We have the Stalwart Fleet Trooper. I don't know what's going on back there. What is that art back there? Is that an explosion going on back there? Is that when Vader enters the Tantan 4? I don't know, but that art is really strange back there behind these guys. Anyways, if a Stalwart Fleet Trooper, a 3/3 Sentinel, nothing about that. Benthic 2 Tubes, he's coming back, everyone. Benthic 2 Tubes is back. He's got himself another unit. Underworld Trooper with on attack, deal 1 damage to an enemy ground unit. When defeated, deal 1 damage to a base. Congratulations, we found a card to work with Saw Gerrera. So, yeah. A 3/2 that can get buffed by Saw Gerrera to become a 5/2 is pretty nice, meaning that he could potentially hit some things, and being able to then overwhelm damage is pretty nice as well. So, pretty cool card. Again, we were expecting to see some cards that kind of work with Saw Gerrera. Again, the second we get a leader, we usually see cards that really want to work with that leader. Anyways, we're going to go into the next one. We got, of course, the Ghost. We have the remainder of the, we've seen everybody, by the way, for the Ghost crew. We now got the ship, the Ghost. We have Sabine. We have now seen Ezra. We've seen Kanan. We've seen Hera. We've seen Zeb. We've seen Chopper. And other than a Agent Callus unit, we have the entirety of the major Ghost crew. So we have the entirety of the major Ghost crew now. Now, while Hera is the leader and she sucks, we now have, of course, everyone. Because again, the Ghost stuff, or the Ghost crew stuff, or the Spectre units, I guess I should say, really want to work together and they really want to be together. Reason why I think Callus could potentially maybe play them because he can pay one to ignore their aspect penalties. But again, I think that is one thing you should consider, that I think the Spectres might go into some strange Agent Callus deck because of Agent Callus's backside of where you play a heroic unit heal damage. But nonetheless, I love what all the Spectres are doing. Hera, definitely the Hera leader from Spark that you will play in Eternal, can definitely utilize all of these Spectres a whole lot better than the Hera leader we got in this set. Poor Hera. They hit her with a bad stick. Anyways, the Ghost is a 6/4/4. That's a pretty weak Ghost. I think that's now the weakest Ghost, because I think the other Ghosts are a whole lot better. Anyways, win plate, giving experience token to a unit and a shield token to a unit. I like that. Being able to give an experience and a shield to a unit, specifically this. So you give a shield to this and an experience to someone else. And again, we've seen with all the other Spectres, if you have another color, either blue or red unit, you may give an experience token and a shield token to each of up to 2 units instead. So basically, instead of giving it to one unit, an experience and a shield token to a unit, including itself, you then can do 2 units. So if you have a red or a blue unit out, then you can give a unit shield experience to this, and then a shield experience to something else. Again, that's what all the Spectres have been able to do, is that they are very much on this like tirade of really wanting you to build around the Spectres or build around multicolored aspected decks, which is cool. It really is cool. They're definitely going to be a whole. I don't think they're going to make Hera from Spark viable in the Eternal format meta, but still, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play around with these guys with that Hera, because then you can just like, straight up ignore all these aspect penalties as long as they're Spectres. And then we have Sabine Wren, Ambush. She's a 3/3/3. She's very much different than her original Sabine Wren of the 2/2/3 on attack, deal 1 damage to a unit or 1 damage to your opponent's base. When played, you may defeat a non-unique upgrade. If you control a blue or green, you may just defeat any upgrade. So just goodbye to those JTL leaders that are so nuisance, unless you are Anakin Luke Skywalker, which can't be killed off via any upgrade hate because of his card effect. But goodbye to those units. So yeah, pretty cool card. Just another way to kill upgrades. But again, if you really want to be using the multi-aspect stuff so that you can get that just murk any upgrade instead of non-unique. So pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. I like all the Spectre stuff, and now we have included all. It's really good. Django Fett, everybody. A 5/6/5 shielded, which is an upgrade, by the way. On attack, if this unit is upgraded, exhaust an enemy unit. Again, a nice little card there. On attack to exhaust something is pretty nice overall. And by the way, shielded is an upgrade. So even though you see people play like a shield token on it, that is still an upgrade because we have the shield card, which slips under their units, which slips under unit cards. That is an upgrade, by the way. That is an upgrade. A Tordarian Technician with 2/2/3, raid 1, restore 1. I don't know why we still need to tell people what restore 1 does, and shield it does, and raid does. By now, most of the time, most people know what these effects do. But anyways, for people that are just coming into this set, you still need to put those down so they understand what they are. But anyways, just a nice little card. Betray to Trust. Choose an enemy unit. For this combat, that unit can't deal combat damage to your base. Just a way to sustain yourself from not dying. So basically, you choose an enemy unit, you can't die. That's basically what it is. Fire across the galaxy. Use any number of wind plate abilities on your friendly Spectre units. So, this is basically the combination of all of the Spectres coming together and basically doing a bunch of stuff. So you can use any number of wind plate abilities on friendly Spectre units, including the wind plate abilities on the older Spectre units as well. Not that they really have wind plate. I think the Spark Rebellion guys are all wind attack triggers, so something to think about there, that it's really for the wind plate skills of these. But still, this is really the culmination of it all. Why you want to play all these Spectres and have them up all on the board. So, yeah, again, if the Hera leader or there was a leader just better for all the Spectre units, I think this would be fun. But it just feels like all the Spectre stuff is really more going to see a lot more play in the Eternal format because of the Hera from Spark. Just, I don't know. Maybe the Hera from this set is going to maybe get these Spectres to work. I don't know. I don't really know who could really work them. Make them work, but still, it's a really fun card because it really makes the Spectres fun, and it's just like, the the Spectres are so fun to play with all their interesting effects. All their interesting effects, but it just feels so not great because there's not really a great leader to play all of the Spectres in. Other than, of course, the Hera from Spark, but that's Eternal for Massa. But anyways, to recap all your win played skills, win played, knock out an upgrade, win played, give a shield token or experience, give a shield and experience to a guy. The rest are down here. What was Kanan? What did Kanan do? Apologies, we're gonna have to go to the second page. Kanan Jarrus, you may return a non-leader unit to your opponent's hand as 2 or 4. Ezra was a little further down. Ezra, when played, may heal 2 damage from a unit. If you control this, you may heal 4. And then Chopper was give an experience token to the unit. If you control this, give 2 experience tokens to him. And then Zeb was there's Zeb. Zeb was may deal 3 damage to a ground unit, but if you do 5. So again, a really cool card for what it wants to do. It just really sucks that I feel like this is not really going to be great unless you can get enough Spectres to do it. I don't know. It's a cool card though, don't get me wrong. I like what this card can do. The Spectre stuff is just so good. The Spectres feel so good for this multicolored stuff that they're doing. It just sucks that there's not much to do with it because, again, how are you going to build a deck that plays enough of the Spectres without playing so much of the aspect penalty to them? The Hera leader will pray to hope you got 2 units out at all times from this set, but still, it's not bad. I really like it though. Don't get me wrong. I really like what this card does. I think it can be fun if you can get it off. But unfortunately, I think the Spectres are going to be more played in Eternal than they are. I think there's going to be some Spectres that probably can be able to play outside of using a bunch of Spectres. But still, the Spectres are so restrictive. There are some neat ones, like, like the Ezra, like the Chopper, like the Ghost, that, they'll be played, but they're just better if you can get them if you can use their secondary abilities, where if you have this color do X instead, which I think is much better, but still, I like them. It just sucks that there really isn't a great deck to throw them all into like there was with Hera from Spark, which again, I guess that brings in that reasoning why people say that we should have been rotating after set 10. Honor-bound Partisan, 2/2/2. When played, deal 1 damage to a base. When defeated, the next unit you play this phase costs 1 less. Congratulations, we're just seeing more of Saul's units. The High Singer, when played, give an experience token to another friendly green unit. When defeated, give an experience token to a friendly red unit. Again, just something we're seeing with Saul. Saul, just more cards to help buff his strategy, what he wants to do. They're all, also by the way, without aspect penalty, they're all in red-green. Asajj Ventress, when played, you may ready another Bounty Hunter unit. So again, we've seen like Bounty Hunter, Underworld. So you would need Bounty Hunters for him, but we've seen a lot of red-green Bounty Hunters running around. What was Forlom? Is Forlom a red-green Bounty Hunter? I know this is red, blue, green. Where's Forlom? Swore we read Forlom. We did. Where'd he go? Sorry, folks. I know we read Forlom in part 2. Okay. Did I misplace him? Well, it's Dengar. Well, I think Forlom, actually is a villainy tech. We'll check it out later, but Forlom has some Bounty Hunter stuff. So, I mean, if you play enough Bounty Hunters in red-green, you get this effect to go off. Again, we're seeing another card, kind of buffs, kind of might be something you would do with Saul Guerrera. And then finally, we have the Defiant Hammerhead as our last review for this part. A 6/6/6, Mark of the Beast. On attack, if this unit is attacking a unit, you may give it +4 for this attack. If you do, defeat this unit after completing this attack. Congratulations, buff it up with 2 more and overwhelm them Saul, and then you can do 12 overwhelm damage. Attempt to do attack with a guy that can hit for 12 and potentially hit you with 12 and overwhelm some of that damage in your opponent's base. So yeah, that's fun. Just another card for Saul to do stuff with, by the way. Also, it's a capital class vessel, by the way. So Piet's already going to be running in red-green. I think that's the meta for Piet. So Piet actually can reduce the cost of this because it does not have a heroic tag. So Piet can actually reduce the cost of this, and then you can basically swing this in for 10 damage. And then, yeah, you murk it. But still, 10 damage on a 10 on a 6 drop that Piet can then reduce if he's flipped over to a 4 drop is really nasty, folks. Really nasty. That's 10 damage your opponent probably can't get rid of. But nonetheless, it is going to bother me right now if I don't find that Forlom. That is not what I want. Okay, Forlom. What was Forlom? Oh no, Forlom has the villainy tag, so, and unfortunately he's in yellow, not in green, but he does have the bounty hunter. But nonetheless, we have seen, of course, a lot of bounty hunters from this set here. But nonetheless, the stuff, it's looking good. While we didn't get a lot of new legendaries, like we got the Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I think is going to be quite fun, especially in the Twin Sun setting. Who else was a legendary? The Mandalorian, Anakin's Pod Racer. I think Anakin Pod Racer is the best legendary right now. That's another really good legendary we've seen. But yeah, other than that, and Max Rebo. That's going to be an amazing legendary. I think people are going to hunt that. But nonetheless, the set's looking good, folks. The set's looking good. There are some really good cards coming out of this. The common bases I'm not impressed by. But there are some good cards coming out of this stuff. We have some good leaders coming out. Like I said when I read all the leaders, I'm not too impressed with a lot of them, but Val seems pretty impressive now with all of the stuff that basically can ensure that we can block our opponent from using credit tokens. I think, yeah, we got some fun ones, like in Saw is going to be pretty fun, like Infant's Nest. I just wish she didn't have the pay 2 on her front side. But yeah, and like we have leaders that I'm not impressed with, like the client needs his deck to work exactly well. I think Zaboba, is going to be pretty fun. I think this is going to be a fun leader. And then like the Han are like the two unimpressives, and like the Zaboba is going to be fun. I think the Val's definitely got some good potential in her. And I think Saul is just going to be this strange, fun deck you play. However you build it, congratulations to you. I mean, we got the rest of the Spectres. We got a really cool card that buffs the entirety of the Spectres. I mean, dang, this set's just going to look fun. This set, I think, is going to look fun. How much of this set becomes meta, how much of the leaders become meta, how many of the cards become meta, that's really going to be defined by how people build, how people think, and how people play in the competitive scene. Because, let me tell you, when we get this next set, it's going to be the Wild West of building. Because what really do you build? Before, it was always easy. You had 3 colors. Your color of your leaders, which always was like blue, red, green, yellow, and your villainy or your heroic tag, plus the color of your base. That was it. It was that. It was all monocolored things. You took the best guys that were monocolored, either that attached to your base or your leader, and the guys that had heroic or villainy tag associated leader that was also associated with your base and your leader. And you just bash that deck together, and that's what you play. In this new meta we got with Law, it's going to be up in the air what's going to be played. Do you play the new common base to use the action to ignore aspect penalty? Do you play Agent Callus so that you can play everything without the aspect penalties? Like, what are we going to build? Like, how are these decks going to be built around each other? How are you going to bash your cards in? Do you play like a yellow-blue strategy and then you play like these guys? Or are you going to have to play some yellow-red or this strategy or that strategy? It's going to be so much fun because now it kind of turns into, well, I want to play blue, but I also want to play red. Oh, what blue-red cards can I now play? It's definitely going to hurt all the people that have OCD, things about how they sort their cards now that we have these double color cards. Like, are you now going to have to sort all your double color cards of, oh, well, it's red, yellow, but it also has a heroic tag. Do I put that in one collection, or do I put red, yellow, and heroic all together? So, yeah, I know some people are probably going to have some weird OCDs about that. It definitely is going to go for me as well, because typically if it's multicolor, I usually go off the first color, but I might actually have to put in a new sheet where it's actually like red yellows go together, the green reds, the yellow blues, and then if it has the ability tag, it just goes in there as well. But nonetheless, the set looks fun. We're still, I don't think, have all the cards. We should have a full, I think the full set is going to be, should have over 264 cards. We have 151. We are missing 113. 113 cards are still left. We don't know if there's going to be legacy cards in this set at all. We haven't got any reveals for those. We don't know what the reprints are just yet. Well, we're getting reprinted from set 1, 2, and 3 to be in, or sets 4, 5, and 6 as well. Because again, we are in the Bs. I was about to say blue, but that's not correct. We're in Bs now. So now that we're in Bs, that means that once we hit Homeworlds, and that set officially rotates us into the third rotation, which will be Cs. I guess they just go down until we have 26 rotations with Zs, and then what do we do? Double As? But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I'll be impressed if we actually get to 27 sets. That would be pretty cool. But nonetheless, I mean, yeah. So now we have Bs. So now do we get reprints from cards 1, 4, 5, and 6 and get them Bs now, or do we reprint cards from set 1, 2, and 3 and give them Bs? So now that comes in the problem of what do we get reprinted from 1 through 6? That's going to be in the rotation for because again, once we hit Homeworlds, we rotate out JTL, LOF, and Secrets, and we'll have a Lawless Time, Ashes of the Empire, Homeworlds, and whatever set 11 is. So, nonetheless, guys, let me know down in the comments what you're excited for, and of course, A Lawless Time. What did you like about what we got revealed now? What are you still hoping to see? And let me know, what leaders are you guys theory crafting for right now? Saboba, Bell, Agent Callus. And let me know which leaders you kind of just want to try, like Han, the Clients, Infant's Nest, stuff like that, Saul Guerrera. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments, guys. And while you're commenting, do make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you can notify when my videos go live for you. I will see you next time. I'm on Dragons TCG.